Welcome to the Tamara Rochelle Show.
Change your life. It's not easy when life is a challenge, but as women with goals and dreams, we find balance. You have the power. You have the power.
And now here's your host, Tamara Rochelle, your how-to coach and take action strategist.
You can create balance between your career and family without losing yourself. It's about prioritizing, setting boundaries, and making intentional choices that serve both your professional and your personal life. Hey, sister friend. I know you're feeling like there's never enough time to get it all done. Between the demands of your career and the responsibilities of your family, it's easy to feel like you're being pulled in a million different directions. I've been there, raising 4 kids, going back to school to finish my master's degree, working a full-time job, starting and running my own business, and still trying to find time to take care of me. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to create balance in a way that works for you. It's time to stop feeling overwhelmed and time to take back control of your time, your schedule, your energy, and your life. When my kids were younger, I was in the thick of it, running from work to cheerleading practice, football games, track meets, dance recitals, doctor's appointments, and anything else the kids had going on. You know the life. We lived in my minivan. In fact, there were times when I actually slept in that minivan. Yes, there were times when I took power naps in the minivan while my kids finished up their mini activities. And I know I said when my kids were younger, but I have even more recent examples of this. Before my son got his driver's license 3 years ago, I was still dropping him off and picking him up from 2-a-day football practices. Yes, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning to get him to his 5 a.m. practices. I would sleep in the car until he was done, take him back home so that he could shower and get ready for school, and then take him back to school because he didn't have a school bus. So I want all my moms to know that, yes, I am an empty nester now, but I am not too far removed from the busy mom life. I meant it when I said I've been an active parent for 30 years with no lunch breaks. Remember, my children are all 5 years apart except for the last 2, which are 2.5 years apart. So 3 years ago, while my daughters were grown and on their own, I was still on pick-up and drop-off duty. Okay? So when I talk about my kids being younger, I'm really talking about the time when they were all home and under one roof. And this sounds so crazy every time I say it out loud, but there was a time when I had a kid in every stage of development under one roof. I had the teenager, the adolescent, the toddler, and the baby. Now, depending on where you follow me, you may have heard that before. I know I probably sound like a broken record, but I want to be clear about my experience and my parenting journey. So back to when my kids were young. See, I was off on a tangent. Every time I think about my journey, it just blows my mind. So yes, back then, I also had a job that demanded so much of me. I traveled several times a month and often put in some very long hours. There were times I felt like I was barely holding it all together. Then one day I realized that something had to change. Something had to give. I was giving everything to everyone else and leaving nothing for myself. That's when I learned the power of setting boundaries and asking for help and making intentional choices about how I spent my time. It wasn't easy, but it made all the difference. The first thing I did was cut back on my children's activities. If your kids are anything like mine, they sign up for anything and everything. I made them choose 2 activities, and that's what we focused on. And I know some of you parents just probably fainted right now just because we love our kids to be involved in everything. We want them to be well-rounded and to have multiple opportunities, all of the opportunities we missed out in our childhoods. I know, I get it. I do. I was right there with you. But when I realized my children were just as overscheduled and exhausted as I was, I knew I was making the right decision for them. And listen, when they became more focused, they also excelled in their chosen activities. I also had to make some changes in my work life. There was a time when I had to be superwoman, even at work, making sure every little detail was handled by me. We believe that old saying that if you want something done right, do it yourself. And let's be real, our coworkers and our peers, they hype us up. Nobody can do that like you do it. But I realized that by taking on so much at work that I wasn't giving anyone else room to grow. And more importantly, I was stretching myself too thin. While I loved my job and the work I was doing, I was taking on too much. And some of that is why I was working longer hours. It wasn't that I wasn't productive during the workday. I was just taking on too many things. I started delegating more, allowing my team to take the lead on certain projects. And guess what? The world didn't end and excellent work was still getting done. Listen, sister friend, the lesson here is simple. You can't do it all, and that's okay. But you can create a life where you're giving your best to both your family and your career without losing yourself in the process. It all starts with setting clear boundaries, knowing what's most important, and making decisions that align with what's important to you. Here's how you can start balancing career and family more effectively. 1. Set clear priorities. Decide what matters most, both at work and at home. What are your non-negotiables? What can you let go of? 2. Create boundaries. It's okay to say no. At work, set boundaries around your time so you're not constantly working late. At home, ask for help. Share responsibilities where you can. 3. Schedule me time. Block off time for yourself. Just like you do for work meetings or family obligations, this is essential to your well-being. 4. Communicate clearly. Let your family and your work family know your priorities. Don't be afraid to tell people when you need help or when something isn't working for you. 5. Stop chasing perfection. Balance doesn't mean being perfect. It means making choices that feel right for you in the moment. We love to think we can do it all or that we have to do it all. Listen, I used to be a perfectionist. I remember a time I wouldn't even let anyone help me with the laundry because, of course, no one could fold the towels correctly like I did. And I was neatly folding all of the kids' clothes. Down to their little underwear, making perfect little rectangles until one day I saw my son toss his neatly folded underwear right into the drawer. And guess what? The girls did the exact same thing. Here I was worried about being perfect, and them little boogers could care less. They were tossing that stuff into the drawers. As long as it was clean, that's all they cared about. So I stopped folding underwear. In fact, I started letting the kids fold their own clothes, their own underwear. Okay, I admit, I still folded the towels, but I definitely started sharing the love, or in this case, the load. Pun intended. So here are a few steps you can take this week to start balancing better. 1, reflect on priorities. Take 10 minutes to write down your top 3 priorities at work and your top 3 priorities at home. Then look at where you're spending your time right now. Are they aligned? If not, what can you change? And be honest, how much of that time is spent scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, thinking about how much time you don't have? 2, set one new boundary this week. Set one boundary that protects your time or energy. Maybe it's not checking work emails after 6 p.m. or maybe it's delegating a household task to your partner or your kids. 3, schedule self-care. Block out at least 30 minutes this week to do something just for you, whether it's a walk, a coffee break, or reading a book, or maybe it's just stealing away into your pantry or garage to get away from the kids for a few minutes. Yes, I've actually done both of those. Whatever it is, make sure it's something that refuels you. 4, take a real lunch break. I used to be that person who powered through lunch, eating at my desk and working straight through the afternoon. It's okay to take a real break, sister friend. Step outside, take a walk, get some fresh air. Taking short breaks not only allows you to recharge throughout the day, it can do wonders for your productivity and reduce your stress levels. Okay, so let's move to one of my favorite segments of the show, Ask Tamara, where I answer questions from sister friends around the world who just need a little bit of advice or wisdom as they navigate their life, relationships, and career and continue to make important decisions in their life. And they just want another perspective. Today's question comes from a sister friend in Columbus, Ohio. She writes, Tamara, I'm a single mom working full time, and I constantly feel like I'm failing at both. You talk often about finding balance, but finding balance feels impossible. So of course I selected and saved this question for today's show. Sister friend, let me start by saying that I am sure you are doing a great job. And I've been there as a single mom working full time. It can feel like you're being pulled in too many directions. But here's what I want you to remember. Balance doesn't mean giving 100% to everything or everyone all the time. And that's where we make the mistake. We think balance is about giving equal attention to everything in our lives. And that's what drives us crazy. And we get so down on ourselves when we're unable to do that. Balance simply means making sure the most important things get the attention they need and then giving yourself grace for the rest. There is no blueprint. You may be looking at me or comparing yourself to your other sister friends, but the reality is that balance is unique and it's relative to you and your particular situation. Yes, I can share all of my tips and strategies, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what works best for you and your family's needs and demands. That's why I'm always talking about your unique balance. Set some new boundaries. Maybe it is not checking your work emails after a certain time. The reason why I'm a night owl right now is because I learned to stay up after my kids were in bed to check emails and just finish up my work projects. Because I knew that once I got home from work, it was all about them, their practices, getting homework done, fixing dinner. And I learned to stay up at night to get some of the things I needed to get done. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to be a night owl, and I'm not sure how old your kids are. But maybe it's delegating laundry duty or letting them learn that breakfast for dinner is not the end of the world. In fact, we love it. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Just don't forget to take care of yourself too, because you can't pour from an empty cup. As I wrap up today's show, I want to reiterate that balancing career and family isn't about perfection. It's about making intentional choices that serve both your work and your home life. Sister friend, if you're ready to start creating more balance, take the steps we talked about here today. Remember, small shifts can make a big difference. If balancing it all feels impossible, make sure you go to my website at tamararochelle.com and download my free Don't Find Time, Make Time guide. It's packed with practical tips and the exact strategies I used and still use every day to make more time in my busy life. I'm sure they'll help you find more time in your day so that you can focus on what really matters. And for those of you ready to go a little deeper, you can also check out the accompanying Don't Find Time, Make Time audio, which goes a little deeper and shares these tips and strategies in a way that's more digestible and something you can listen to while on the go or on your commute back and forth to work or just while multitasking. Okay, sister friend, I hope this episode was helpful and that you got some tips and strategies to help you find your unique balance. I try to keep these episodes bite-sized and impactful so that you can easily digest the information and implement these tips and strategies. I hope you got something from this episode that you can use to make some positive changes in your life, relationships, and career. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share it with others. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss an episode. And also, let me know how you put these tips and strategies to work in your life. Drop your comments below or connect with me on social media at I'm Tamara Rochelle. You can also let me know if there's a topic you'd like for me to cover. You know I love getting your feedback and suggestions. If you have a question for Ask Tamara, please email me at asktamara@tamararochelle.com or on social media using the hashtag AskTamara. I just might use your question in an upcoming episode. And again, don't forget to visit my website and take advantage of my other content, programs, and products, tools, and resources. If you want to work with me one-on-one or pick my brain or just get your questions answered, you can also book a private session with me. Thanks again for tuning in and spending this time with me. I look forward to connecting with you in the next episode. Take care, and until next time, keep showing up for yourself and keep taking action.
You have the power. You have the power. You have the power to change your life. You have the power. You have the power.
Thanks for tuning in. You've just listened to another episode of the Tamara Rochelle Show. If you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with others. For more tools and resources, visit tamararochelle.com and connect with Tamara on social media at I'm Tamara Rochelle.